Hello and welcome. Tonight, the battle for the stool of the Kano Emirate moves to the courts. Conflicting judgments surface, one in favor of Emir Muhammadu Sanusi II, the other in favor of the deposed Emir Aminu Ado Bayero. Senate pardons and recalls Senator representing Bauchi Central Senatorial District, Abdul Ningi, 2 months after he was suspended over the budget padding allegations. And in continuation of our appraisal of President Bola Tinubu's 1 year in office, tonight, our focus is on food security.
On Business News tonight, Conference of Civil Societies warned that proposed amendments of CBN Act will weaken financial market regulators' autonomy and cause potential adverse consequences for the economy.
On Sports News tonight, African Footballer of the Year and Super Eagles forward Victor Osimhen ruled out of next month's 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers against South Africa and Benin Republic owing to injury.
From the nation's capital, Organized Labour again rejects government's proposal to pay 60,000 naira as new minimum wage as Labour shifts ground to 494,000 naira.
International news from London. Journalists and witnesses in Rafah in southern Gaza say Israeli tanks have seized control of a key roundabout in the heart of the city.
We begin from Kano State, where the battle for the control of the Emirates has now shifted to the courts with the granting of conflicting orders by 2 separate courts. While the Federal High Court granted an order restraining the Inspector General of Police and the DSS from arresting Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero, 2 conflicting orders were granted on whether Muhammadu Sanusi II should remain in the Emir's palace. Our correspondent Sadiq Ilyasu now reports.
It's been 5 days since the resolution of the additional emirates created by former Governor Abdullahi Ganduje of Kano State and the subsequent reinstatement of Muhammadu Sanusi II as the new emir. Since then, the ancient city of Kano has witnessed a number of protests, some in support of the reinstated emir, while others support the 15th emir Aminu Ado Bayero. It appears, however, that the battle has now moved to the courts as conflicting orders from the federal and state high courts have emerged. The Federal High Court, presided over by Justice S.A. Amobeda, issued an order for the eviction of Emir Muhammadu Sanusi II from the Ofar Kudu Palace, reinforcing the authority of the 15th Emir of Kano, Aminu Ado Bayero. On the other hand, the Kano State High Court, under the jurisdiction of Honorable Justice Amina Adamu Aliyu, issued an injunction to protect Muhammadu Sanusi and other key figures from potential harassment by the state authorities. In another ruling, Justice S.A. Amobeda issued an order of interim injunction restraining the Inspector General of Police, the Kano State Commissioner of Police, and the Department of State Service from arresting Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero. Meanwhile, youth and students marched to the residence of the Emir at Nasarawa, calling on the Kano government not to force Aminu Ado Bayero out of the palace, which, according to them, may disturb the peace in the state.
Ejecting His Eminence, the Emir of Kano, Aminu Ado Bayero, from his royal house will bring chaos and instability in our dear state. So, at this juncture, we would like to call the attention of the state government to take the interest of Kano people first, because we are doing this for the interest of Kano citizens and Kano state at large. We want peace to reign.
The Ofar Kudu Emir's palace, where Muhammadu Sanusi II is residing, remains busy with people coming in and out. Sadiq Ilyasu, Channels Television News.
To the National Assembly now, where the Senate has pardoned and recalled Senator Abdul Ningi, who was suspended for 3 months on March the 12th this year. The recall, which comes 2 weeks before its original expiration, follows a motion moved by the Deputy Minority Leader, Senator Abba Moro, who apologized on behalf of the suspended senator and took responsibility for his actions. The lawmakers took the unanimous decision after reconvened for plenary from a closed-door session today. The upper chamber was at its sitting on March the 12th, thrown into a rowdy session as lawmakers debated on allegations raised by the former Senate Deputy Leader and former chairman of the Northern Senators Forum.
Aware that the State Senator Abdul Ahmed Ningi, being under suspension, has spent over 2 months outside the precincts of the National Assembly complex and needs to return to continue with his legislative activities as a senator representing Bauchi's Central Senatorial District. Flowing from the above, the Senate minority leadership takes full responsibility for the actions of our colleague Senator Abdul Ahmed Ningi and apologizes on his behalf.
He's a very resourceful senator and one of our own, and the Senate is a family, irrespective of political divide, irrespective of religious divide, irrespective of languages. This happening today goes in tandem with the spirit of what the National Assembly, both the Senate and the House of Reps, has done by bringing back our old national anthem, which simply says that though tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Accordingly, Senator Abdul Ningi is hereby pardoned by the 10th Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and is also hereby recalled to participate in all proceedings of the 10th Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, says first quarter results of Nigeria's gross domestic product growth shows that it has increased to 2.98%, a figure higher than the 2.31% recorded last year. He attributed this to the success of the economic reforms of President Bola Tinubu. Mr. Edun made the remark while giving an update of the achievements of the ministry in the last 1 year as part of activities to mark the first year of President Bola Tinubu's administration. Our correspondent, Victoria Longjohn, reports that more ministers also presented their scorecards at the event.
The state of the economy came into focus at the ongoing ministerial sectoral briefing to mark the first year in office of President Bola Tinubu.
For the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
It's day 4 and 4 ministers are lined up to make their presentation.
The closing remark. Please a round of applause for him.
As has been customary, the Minister of Information and National Orientation opens the session.
I expect that members of the media will, as usual, remain patriotic by reporting only the truth about the proceedings of this place.
The first minister to speak is the Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun. He highlights efforts of government through different interventions to ameliorate the sufferings of Nigerians while explaining Nigeria's economic position in the last 1 year.
We are now in a situation where the revenue of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has been totally revamped, rejuvenated, and increased substantially. What that means is that the government can now pay its way. The government is paying its debt service without resort to ways and means, particularly international debt service. The obligations domestically are being paid.
Next is the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Mrs. Doris Uzoma Anite, who gives insight on the efforts to relaunch Nigeria's investment landscape.
Nigeria's investment landscape is now witnessing a significant influx of foreign capital aligning with the renewed agenda of Mr. President. Led by the commitment of His Excellency Mr. President, we have secured investment commitments of over $30 billion so far across multiple sectors of the economy. In addition, the ministry is taking decisive and structured steps to attract capital investments which will transform our homegrown enterprises and industries into global players.
The Ministers of Marine and Blue Economy and that of Foreign Affairs round up the day's presentation by emphasizing on achievements made in securing the nation's resources at the ports and the gains made from foreign investments.
I'm happy to report that today, sanity has returned to the Tinker Island Port Corridor as the perennial traffic pillar of the Mile 2 and Tinker in Lagos has since given way, thus putting an end to the multi-billion naira yearly loss to Lagos Port Traffic Pillar.
We're just returning from a trip to the US where we managed to work with the US government to put additional pressure on the US Congress to extend the AGOA, African Growth Opportunities Act, that they were looking to end. Our target is to make sure that the garment industry moving forward is included in the exports for AGOA. We are pushing very hard for Nigeria to become a member of the G20. We've campaigned, we've engaged with so many G20 members. All of them are very receptive to the idea because you need Nigeria in there to be able to influence what happens in the global economy and speak out for others because we have a big voice.
The ministerial briefing will take a break for the May 29 celebration. So far, 17 ministers have presented their scorecards, and more are expected to brief Nigerians in the coming days. Victoria Longjon for Channels Television News.
In continuation of our assessment of the president's 1 year in office, tonight we look at food security, which is one of the 8-point agenda that the president campaigned on before he was elected. Agriculture indeed remains the foundation of the Nigerian economy, according to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, as it accounts for 35% of employment in Nigeria. However, the sector, that's the agriculture sector, is bedeviled with several challenges, including poor infrastructure, lack of storage facilities, farm inputs, and most recently, insecurity. The removal of fuel subsidy also affected food production, leading to a hike in the price of food items. Our correspondent, Sarah Chimugu, in this next report takes a look at how the sector has fared in the last 1 year.
It's another farming season, and 60-year-old Saundu Kaka of Gwe West in Benue State is already taking steps to ensure a bountiful harvest, hoping to feed his family of 60 persons, as well as make money from the proceeds of his farm. However, he has some concerns, and security is a major issue.
This year, see how my yam be, small like this. Last year, this time I don't eat my farm early, but this year I no fit do am well as I did do before.
According to the Food and Agricultural Organization, 88% of Nigerian farmers are considered small family farms, and more than 72% of Nigeria's smallholder farmers live below the poverty line. On the average, Nigerian family farmers sell only 26% of their agricultural products, indicating that farmers consume the highest share of their produce. Furthermore, only 7% of Nigerian smallholder farmers have access to credit. Other setbacks for Nigerian farmers include lack of access road, poor storage facilities, and linkages to market. All of these have impacted negatively on the nation's quest for food security. President Bola Tinubu declared a state of emergency on the food sector to show his determination to address the challenges in the sector. This is just as he promised to prioritize agri-mechanization, extension services, provision of high-yield seedlings, and the continuous support for wet and dry season farming to reduce food imports and boost self-sufficiency in the sector. His decision to remove fuel subsidy on premium motor spirits impacted the prices of food items and put pressure on the nation's food production. Prices of commodities such as maize, rice, sorghum, groundnut, beans and millet almost quadrupled. The government tried to fight back by initiating and implementing some farmer-targeted policies, including fertilizer distribution by the central bank.
We aim to enhance our partnership with the Ministry of Agriculture thereby bolstering your endeavors to enhance food productivity and security, ultimately curbing food inflation and fortifying our pursuit of price stability.
I assure you that it will be judiciously used, and it will deliver it to the last mile, to the intended persons, to the intended farmers, where they can reap the benefits of this huge gesture.
The effort did little to ameliorate the situation as the nation's agricultural sector grapples with poor infrastructure, lack of storage facilities, farm inputs, and insecurity, which has further threatened food security.
The other issue that affect cost of food is cost of equipment. I've enumerated it before that government in developed nations and developing nations, they have a form of subsidy which they pay for food to be cheaper for both the rich and the poor, for food to be affordable for both the rich and the poor. They have all manners of form subsidy. And that subsidy in Nigerian case should be, well, exemption of duties, exemption of tariffs, exemption of all manners of taxes on farming equipment. Let them bring them down.
Agriculture remains a key part of the Nigerian economy, employing 35% of the entire labor force. The sector has also contributed over 21% to the nation's gross domestic product. Despite the critical place that agriculture occupies in Nigeria's economy, the sector has suffered from decades of underdevelopment, which has now resulted in a major threat to national food security. Sarah Chimogu, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, we bring you more on how well the Bola Tinubu administration has fared in the area of food security. And we will be joined by a professor of finance at the Nasarawa State University, Professor Uche Uwaleke. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the News at 10 coming to you live on Channels Television from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. The battle for the stool of the Kano Emirate moves to the courts. Conflicting judgments surface, one in favor of Emir Muhammadu Sanusi II, the other in favor of the deposed Emir Aminu Ado Bayero. Senate pardons and recalls Senator representing Bauchi's Central Senatorial District, Abdul Ningi, 2 months after he was suspended over budget padding allegations. In continuation of our appraisal of President Bola Tinubu's 1 year in office, our focus tonight is on food security. And journalists and witnesses in Rafah in southern Gaza say Israeli tanks have seized control of a key roundabout in the heart of the city. So let's now get some more perspective on how the current administration has fared in one of its 8-point agenda, food security. And we're being joined on the News at 10 by a professor of finance at the Nasarawa State University, Professor Uche Uwaleke, who joins us now from our Abuja studio. You're welcome to the News at 10, Professor.
Thank you so much.
All right, so food, as we all know, is one of the basic needs of man. And the president has already given assurances as well that his government will address the issue of hunger in the land. But then, Professor, would you say Nigeria has got what it takes to feed its citizens?
Yes, of course, we have all the potentials. This is a country going by the Food and Agriculture Organization saying data. We have a land area of 74 million hectares of land or thereabout, out of which about 36 million of that is arable. Arable land, 36 million. But sadly, just about 6 million of that is cultivable. The rest of them, of course, is forest. And which is why the president, when he came on board, was quick to declare a state of emergency on food security. Some of the features of that emergency were, distribution of fertilizers. He also talked about the activation of land banks, 500,000 hectares, of new farmlands to be activated, which in my view, is just a starting point. Given the data I just mentioned now, you will have about 36 million, and just 6 million of that, cultivated. But he also talked about partnering, collaborating with mechanization companies to clear, much of the forest. Of course, that is something that has to do with, with the state governments to, must be involved in. So when you look at it in totality, what that tells you is that, the potentials are there. But if you look at the performance over the last 1 year, the conclusion is that, we still have a long way to go. And that's because if you look at the agri performance in the last 1 year, year-on-year agri growth, actually fell to just 0.18%, according to the latest MBS number. Agri grew by just 0.18%. In the last quarter of 2023, it was around 2.10%. And quarter-on-quarter growth was even more disturbing. It came in at minus 32%. So that tells you that the agri sector is tanking, despite all of this. But again, one of the things that featured prominently in that, emergency, has to do with engaging new security architecture, because insecurity has been a major problem. So he talked about engaging new security architecture. So today we hear about talks around the forest guards, which in my view is also one way to go, and of course state police. So
all right, Professor, if I may come in.
Recognized, and I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah, my apologies if I may come in quickly. Well, of course, some of the issues affecting food production, like insecurity, erosion, and indeed value chain difficulties, have persisted, as you know, in the last 1 year. But do you think the government has been responsive so far, to some of these challenges as to guarantee of food productivity and food security, for citizens?
Yes, I just mentioned some of the things, we have read that has been done. Especially with respect to, getting in new farmland. But what I want to see going forward, happen is for the government to tie spending to agriculture. If it is prioritizing agriculture as, within the framework of the state of emergency, then spending should be tied to it. So if we are spending on education, for example, we should also spend, see the agri component of education and spend on it. By that I mean, take, for example, the students' loan scheme. We can seize the opportunity to prioritize students that are studying agriculture, in various higher institutions, as opposed to making it open to every course of study. So those studying education, given the scarcity of what is available, should be given priority in the students' loan scheme. If we are spending on transport, we also look at the agri component. What is that component that will also spur agriculture? Today we are talking about CNG buses. Okay, how many of that, are utility vehicles that will actually move goods from the farm gate, to where they can be sold? Okay, if you are talking about works, what is the agri component on works? So rural infrastructure, rural roads are also very critical. So in all our spending, because agri is important, we should tie spending to these priority areas, especially agriculture, if we must really attain the food security objective that the government has set for itself.
All right, so Professor, we thank you so much. Professor Uche Uwaleke, we thank you so much for your thoughts on the news at 10.
Thank you so much.
Right about now, Gloria Mizoke is standing by at our nation's capital to give us the very latest from our Abuja studios. Hello, Gloria.
Very many thanks, Ayo. To Labour issue now, the meeting of the Tripartite Committee for a new minimum wage is deadlocked. This comes after Labour union representatives rejected the federal government's new offer of 60,000 naira, and no agreement was reached on what to pay as new minimum wage. At the last meeting, the NLC and the TUC also rejected the government's proposal of 54,000 naira, but shifted grounds from 615,000 naira to 494,000 naira. It is not clear when the parties will meet again or if there will be another offer by the federal government. Governor Dauda Lawal of Zamfara State has commissioned some road projects in Gusau, the state capital. These projects are part of the governor's urban renewal initiatives aimed at promoting sustainable urban development and improve the quality of life for residents.
The commissioning of the roads linking UBA Junction to Freedom Square marks a critical step in addressing the infrastructural deficit that has long plagued the Zamfara state capital. The commissioning of the road is part of activities to mark Governor Dauda Lawal's 1 year in office. First, the Permanent Secretary, Zamfara State Ministry of Works, Shehu Baraya, gives details on the project.
The provision of solid base, stone base, and higher quality binder and wearing course will ensure a long-lasting and resilient roadway.
The special guest of honor and acting national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Ambassador Omar Damagum, commends Governor Lawal for the project despite the challenges facing the state.
Despite the challenges that has bedeviled this state, the insecurity and what have you, the man is so focused. I think we should commend him. We should also pray that he continue on this drive that he strive to achieve.
For Governor Lawal, infrastructure development is the cornerstone of his administration's vision for Zamfara State, which he says will ultimately boost economic growth, enhance social welfare, and create a conducive environment for sustainable development.
This is a significant milestone in our urban renewal agenda. This informs our resolve to ensure that the infrastructure provided to the good people of Zamfara State is in tandem with modern standards.
The commissioning of the Gusau Township Road projects by the Governor Dauda Lawal represents a significant achievement in the ongoing efforts to improve infrastructure in Zamfara State.
Welcome back. You're still watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television. Governor Uba Sani of Kaduna State has donated 150 patrol vehicles and 500 motorcycles to all security agencies in the state as part of tackling the menace of banditry, terrorism and kidnapping under a new security outfit known as Operation Fushinkada. Speaking during the commissioning of the security operational vehicles, Governor Sani described safety and security of lives of residents as paramount to his administration, promising to give more support to security agencies.
The safety and security of our citizens remains paramount. It is our duty as a government to support the security agencies in carrying out their vital responsibilities. We recognize the challenges confronting our security personnel, especially in terms of mobility and swiftly accessing remote areas. Today's commissioning and distribution of vehicles and motorcycles is not just about providing work tools. It is about demonstrating our continued support to security forces. It is about empowering our security personnel, showing them that we value their sacrifices and supporting them in their mission to protect and serve. Apart from the distribution of operational vehicles and motorcycles, our administration has taken other proactive measures to enhance security of Kaduna State. I recently signed the Kaduna State Trust Fund Bill into law. This will ensure funding support toward effort to degrade bandits and terrorists in the state.
The Abia State Governor, Dr. Alex Otti, says his administration has so far delivered 15 road projects in Aba, the commercial nerve center, with a pledge to further fix the entire state. Speaking at the commissioning of the College Road in Aba, Dr. Otti says the three adjoining roads, namely University Road, Green Avenue and College Road are asphaltic concrete roads with lengths of 1.8 kilometers, 550 meters and 320 meters, respectively.
When we are sworn in, a few hours less than 1 year ago, I took a look at the roads in Aba. Majority of them were in terrible state of disrepair. The confusion would have been, which one do we do first? We knew that one of the roads that must receive the first attention was Port Harcourt Road in Aba. Even before we were sworn in, we had taken contractors to have a look at the place and begin the design of the place because we knew it was going to take time. So the next set of roads, given their state and of course their economic importance, included this road that we are standing on today. So we are glad to be delivering the 15th road in Aba. By the time we commissioned these 3 roads, we would have commissioned 15 new roads that we took on, retrofitted, remodeled, redesigned, and rebuilt.
President Bola Tinubu says the focus of his administration in addressing the needs of Nigerians will enable the country to succeed. The president gave the assertion during the commissioning of the Southern Parkway in Abuja. The event was also attended by the minister and other top dignitaries of government. Our correspondent, Kumbi Abuluwade, reports.
President Bola Tinubu arrives for the commissioning of the Southern Parkway in the Federal Capital Territory. He is received by a delegation led by the Minister of the FCT, Mr. Nyesom Wike, alongside the Minister of State, Mrs. Maria Mahmood, and others. The Southern Parkway is a road complex traversing 4 key roads in the Garki district and the Central Business District, with a complex network of accessways connecting public offices, including the head office of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The Minister of the FCT pledges the administration's commitment to bringing soccer to residents of the nation's capital.
In August 21, 2023, we were confronted with many uncompleted projects that are dragged on for several years. However, the coming of the current administration and Mr. President's unflinching support has indeed led to the completion. In this regard, and for many other patriotic persuasions, that the FCT administration hereby humbly resolve that this very important road be named Bola Ahmed Tinubu Way.
While delivering his speech, President Bola Tinubu said, with the paramount attention his administration is giving to addressing the needs of Nigerians, the country will succeed.
The need of our citizens is paramount in our minds. So for making our citizens the central focus of our development, we believe Nigeria will succeed.
This event marks the beginning of a series of events that will be commissioned in the coming days by the present FCT administration. The road construction projects will give rise to the opening up of road channels that will reduce congestion seen within the FCT. From the nation's capital, Kumbi Aboluade, Channels Television News.
That's it from the nation's capital. It's back to you, Ayo, for more on the news at 10.
Thank you so much, Gloria. The reconstructed Apapa-Oworoshoki-Ojota Expressway has been officially commissioned. Now, the federal government handed over the Apapa to Oworoshoki end, a 35 kilometers long highway, to the Dangote Group. Now, the group rebuilt the road using concrete technology. The President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, represented President Bola Tinubu at the commissioning ceremony, with Minister of Works Dave Umahi, Chairman of Dangote Group, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, the Lagos State Deputy Governor, Quadri Hamzat, and others also in attendance.
Please, shall we please all rise to receive him in our midst?
It is the commissioning of the Apapa-Oworoshoki-Ojota Expressway. Although already in use, this event marks the official opening of the crucial road project, which started 6 years ago. The Dangote Group reconstructed the road using the more durable concrete technology. The chairman of Dangote Group, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, says the occasion marks a significant step in the journey towards transforming Nigeria's infrastructure landscape.
The Apapa Oworoshoki road was in an extreme poor and suboptimal state with several failed and collapsed sections and literally death traps. This severely hampered the evacuation of goods and restricted access to markets, paralyzing the shipping and manufacturing industries and disrupting supply chain across the entire economic landscape. The implication was that companies suffered increased logistics costs, which was ultimately passed on to the Nigerian consumer.
The Minister of Works, David Umahi, commends the quality of work done by Dangote Group, expressing confidence on the durability of the road.
I will not go into the merits of this road, but I was in Lagos. I'm also a Lagosian, and I can't describe the state of the road before this reconstruction better than what Alhaji Aliko did, and of course the Deputy Governor of Lagos State. But I know I was once trapped in that road for more than 8 hours. 8 hours, no movement. And that was a very terrible moment because we were all trying to go and catch a flight. And so today, we have not just a reconstructed road, but we have a road built on concrete, reinforced concrete. And I want Nigerians to take a look at that technology. It's not just a main road, it's a road that is built to last for more than 50 to 100 years.
The Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, performs the official commissioning of the reconstructed road.
And in line with the agenda of Mr. President, the renewed hope. This will give hope to Nigerians, reducing stress and improving the lot and the economic fortunes of our people. In the name of Almighty God. And I say, inshallah.
Dangote Group says it's committed to developing communities where it operates and will continue to give back and contribute to the well-being of the people and the nation.
The 4th National Assembly retreat organized by the Pension Funds Operators Association of Nigeria, PNOP, and the National Assembly held in Lagos with the theme Navigating Challenges and Unlocking a Secured Future for Pensioners. Present were members of PNOP, the National Assembly, as well as shareholders who attended to synergize ideas aimed at bringing out better ways of managing monies of retirees in Nigeria.
The Pension Funds Operators Association of Nigeria is hosting members of the National Assembly at its 4th national retreat to look at pension management in the country. To get the retreat underway, Chief Executive Officer of the Pension Funds Operators Association of Nigeria, PNOP, Mr. Oguche Aguda, raises pertinent questions about efficient management of pension funds or the lack of it.
What laws do we need to make that will improve the lives of our fellow Nigerians? How do we make the pension system fit for purpose?
With these questions, the CEO of PENOP sets the tone for the discussion, while the chairman, Senate Committee on Establishment and Public Service, Senator Fashiyi Oluwole, highlights an important aspect of the issues on the table.
I trust that the discussions today are going to be very robust. I hope they will address these issues and more.
Some of the attendees seize the opportunity to ask their own questions on how their funds are being managed.
I have 30 million left with you, and it earns an annual return of an average of 19% or 15%, as the case may be. If you punch your calculator, how much does it give you real value in a year?
The answer to your question is that all the monies, all the funds invested belongs to the contributors, to the retirees.
Committee on Pensions. Other members of PENOP and lawmakers state the importance of having such an event like this.
We at the House of Representatives very soon we are going to have a stakeholders engagement on the amendment of the Pension Reform Act of 2014.
We are in a position to look at their operations and see where we can use law, an amendment of the Pension Act, to make them more effective.
The purpose of this retreat is to educate the legislators so that they can be aware of what the contributory pension scheme is all about. In fact, everything to do with pension and how it impacts Nigeria.
From deliberations at this event, these stakeholders agreed to work together to navigate challenges and unlock a secured future for Nigerian pensioners.
Time now for some business news with Melinda Akilami.
Many thanks, Ayotunde. Welcome to Business News. The Conference of Civil Societies have warned that many of the proposed amendments to the Extant Central Bank of Nigeria Act will weaken its autonomy. Addressing journalists in the nation's capital, Abuja, the chairperson of the Conference of Civil Societies, Mr. Adams Atako, expressed concern about the economy, monetary policy, and its impact on ordinary Nigerians. Company news now. Wema Bank Nigeria PLC has held its 2023 annual general meeting at its headquarters in Lagos. The meeting, which held virtually, brought stakeholders together. As management says, despite challenges, the bank recorded impressive financial figures and assures stakeholders and shareholders that it will work towards ensuring the return on investment for all.
Nigeria's leading fintech banking institution, Wema Bank PLC, holds its annual general meeting at its headquarters in Lagos. Like previous editions, the 2023 AGM is being held virtually with full participation of board members, shareholders and regulators, as the chairman, Board of Directors, Oluwayemisi Olorunshola, sets the agenda for the day.
As we gather today, we do so not just to review the past year, but to celebrate the performance of our bank, despite a tough operating environment, and agree a path towards achieving the ambitious growth aspirations of our bank.
The managing director of the bank, Maruf Oseni, reassures shareholders that management will do its best to ensure return on investments.
We will do our best to make sure that we run a very, very profitable bank, and we will return back to you guys for your investment in the bank. So that we will continue doing.
From the 2023 figures, Wema Bank PLC posted a total revenue of 122,428,919,000 naira. Profit before tax stands at 43,663,929,000 naira, while profit after tax is 35,988,967,000 naira. The chairman sheds more light on the bank's performance.
With currency fluctuations, rising inflations, and talent exodus impacting businesses and individuals alike. Despite these complexities, Wema Bank grew strongly over the period. We embraced execution mastery and adapted to the changing landscapes, thus emerged stronger than ever.
The managing director speaks further on the continued utilization of fintech on all of Wema Bank's operations.
The only thing that makes a difference is making sure that your customer comes back to you. And the only way you can do that is to make sure that you give your customer a very, very good experience. So we're using and harnessing technology to make sure that that happens.
In a bid to position Wema Bank as a leading financial institution in Nigeria, management says the bank will remain a national bank while expressing confidence that it will meet the Central Bank of Nigeria's new recapitalization target.
The local bourse extended positive sentiments recorded in Monday's trading session as buying interest in some high-value stocks lifted the benchmark index higher. Willie Bong tells us more.
Welcome to the Stock Market Report. It's day 2, and so far, it's looking good. The market rose today 0.53%. We're back to 98,000 and counting. And let's not go too far. It's Seplat that worked the magic today. The company opened at 3,000 naira and closed at 3,100 naira. That's a massive 100 naira added to the oil company's share price. And we can see that instant boost it gave to the oil and gas index, propping it up there, nearly 2%, 1.88 to be precise. Now, bullish sentiments, we're still seeing it in the banking and consumer goods counters. Mostly positive sentiments today for major indexes of the NGX. However, we did record a lag in industrial goods sector. Analysts say investors are positioning for half-year earnings results. But let's see if this positive trend can be sustained. Will Ibon saying it's a good day for the bull.
That's Business News. It's back to you, Ayotunde.
Many thanks, Melinda. A New York prosecutor began his closing arguments in the Donald Trump hush money case. We'll hear Simon Puzo with other international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Journalists and witnesses in Rafah in southern Gaza say Israeli tanks have seized control of a key roundabout in the heart of the city. The takeover of the Al-Auda roundabout, around 500 meters from the border with Egypt, came amid intense Israeli shelling. Local officials said at least 16 people were killed in Rafah overnight. Hundreds of thousands of people displaced from other parts of the Gaza Strip have been sheltering in Rafah. On Sunday, Israeli airstrikes killed 45 people in a camp for displaced people. Israel called it a tragic mishap. Papua New Guinea authorities say nearly 7,900 people living near the site of a deadly landslide are at risk as rock and debris continues to move down the hillside. An alert for potential evacuation has been put out, with the province officials saying the mountain remains very active. Rescuers say it is increasingly unlikely that victims will be found alive in the rubble. The country's disaster agency says it fears around 2,000 people were buried when a mountainside collapsed last Friday. NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg has said Ukraine's use of weapons supplied by Western allies to hit targets inside Russia would not make NATO and its members part of the conflict.
To deny Ukraine the possibility of using these weapons against legitimate military targets on Russian territory makes it very hard for them to defend themselves.
His comments come after NATO's paramilitary assembly called for member states to support Ukraine's international right to defend itself by lifting some restrictions on Kyiv's use of Western weapons to strike within Russian territory. The declaration, adopted, also called for member states to accelerate their deliveries of critical weapons to Ukraine. Lawyers have given their closing arguments in Donald Trump's hush money trial in New York at the busiest day in court so far. The stakes are incredibly high. This is the last time they will speak to the jury, who will now begin their deliberations. Mr. Trump is accused of trying to cover up a $130,000 hush money payment to the adult star Stormy Daniels. It is the first time in U.S. history that a president, former or current, has faced a criminal trial. Brazilian football great Ronaldinho came out of retirement briefly for a charity match to raise funds for those affected by devastating flooding in the country's south. The Barcelona and PSG legend hit the post with this effort before notching 2 goals and an assist. Former right-back Cafu also starred at Rio de Janeiro's Maracanã Stadium. Brazil's Rio Grande do Sul state has been reeling from weeks of unprecedented floods that have killed more than 160 people and left 90% of its towns inundated. An album so rare and valuable that only a few ears have ever listened to it is set to go on display at an Australian gallery, giving the public a taste of the uber-exclusive tracks. Housed in an ornate silver box, Once Upon a Time in Shaolin, recorded in secret by the Wu-Tang Clan over 6 years, was designed to be a piece of fine art. Only a single CD copy exists. The record by the pioneering hip-hop group is the most expensive ever sold. Over 10 days in June, lucky members of the public can hear a curated 30-minute sample of the album. And movie fans and burglars have been put on alert after the home made famous by the 1990 film Home Alone was put on the market with a sale price of $5.25 million.
Yes! Where are you, you little creep?
The 5-bedroom, 6-bathroom mansion in Illinois forms the key setting for the bulk of the festive hit, as 10-year-old Kevin fends off the break-in efforts of villains after his parents inadvertently leave him unattended over the holidays. The house, described by the sellers as one of the most famous houses in the world, not only features 5 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, but it also has a state-of-the-art basketball court thrown in. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. African Footballer of the Year, Victor Osimhen, will not feature for Nigeria in next month's crucial 2026 World Cup qualifiers against South Africa and Benin Republic owing to injury. The Nigerian Football Federation said that Napoli striker Osimhen is injured and will be sidelined for at least 4 weeks. His place has now been taken by Enugu Rangers defender Kenneth Igboke. That's it on Sports News. Over to you, Ayotunde.
Many thanks, Dominic. And the main news again. Conflicting judgments surfaced in the courts today, one in favor of Emir Muhammadu Sanusi II, while the other was in favor of the deposed Emir Aminu Ado Bayero, even as Kano residents asked for peace to reign to avoid conflict in Kano State. That's the news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Good night.